What's going on, guys? It's Ty from Tidying Cards, and today we're going to talk about a few different Pokemon boxes that are still at a really good price point to jump in at, and I'm expecting them to grow 10-20% over the next few weeks. So, to get started, we're going to talk about Black Bolt and White Flare. These ETBs are already making pretty big moves over the last few weeks. In the last 3 months, Black Bolt ETBs have gone up 27%. They've broke through the $100, ceiling and continued onward with, really no end in sight here. I think Black Bolt is going to continue to grow over time and be a great investment long term. But in the short term, I actually think White Flare is probably a little bit better buy as it's still under $100. It's sitting just under $100, and we're seeing that it's slowing down just a little bit. In the last 3 months, it's only been up. Sorry, the graph is a little messed up, but in the last 6 months, it's up 18%, and we've seen it jump from 82 to 97 in the last few weeks. So while you can still get White Flare $10 less than Black Bolt, I do think White Flare might be a tiny bit better buy and give you a little bit more cushion in the case of a heavy reprint in the future. This box will, of course, be always a little bit less than Black Bolt because it's slightly less desirable, but the floor on an ETB that's a special set is still always going to be that $80 to $100 range. It's never going to go any lower than that because these are going to always be a highly sought after and collectible item. Before we move on with the video, I do want to say that some of my last videos, we only had about 5% of viewers subscribed. So if you enjoy my content and you want to hear more about investable opportunities and market price moves, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you. Now, in comparison, the Black Bolt Pokemon Center ETBs are absolutely skyrocketing. We can see that these reacted first, which makes sense because they're much more desirable as far as collector base and they're much more rare. If we look at some of the last sales, they're already pushing up towards $300. The supply has completely dried up, looking at only 33 boxes in the market with 175 sold in the last 3 months. We're at a 2-week sell-through rate, and pretty soon these could be well over $300 per box. But if we take a look at the White Flare Pokemon Center ETB, the last sales are still in the low 200s, $80 behind, 53 on the market, similar sell-through rate in the last 3 months. So these last few White Flare boxes are actually a pretty decent buy. We wouldn't expect to see any large reprint of a Pokemon Center exclusive ETB. So I think these are a great opportunity to buy, and we'd see this jump up to 250 very, very quickly to catch up a little bit of that gap between Black Bolt and White Flare PC ETBs. Now, if we take a look at the cards themselves, I do like Black Bolt a little bit more, and I think that's the general public consensus is Zekrom is just a little bit cooler than Reshiram, but you also have the Seismitoad, which is pretty popular, and it's only an illustration rare, so if you're considering collecting or ripping Black Bolt, this would have a slightly higher hit rate and give you a better bang for your buck as far as opening. Now, the set value is almost $2,800 in Black Bolt, and it's just over $2,600 for White Flare. Personally, I really like the Hydreigon line in White Flare, and because of the way that they made this set, there is an illustration rare for every Pokemon in the Pokedex for all of the Black and White video games. Very cool, and some of these illustration rares are super underrated, a really great set to collect, which is why I think it will demand a very high sealed premium down the road. Similar to a set like Crown Zenith, where people loved opening it, I think both of these packs are going to age in a similar way. Crown Zenith has maybe some more desirable Pokemon. Dialga, the Palkia, the dogs, Suicune, Raikou, and Entei, those are probably a little bit more desirable from a Pokemon standpoint, but these cards are incredible artworks in their own right and will continue to be popular down the road. I think the set that we have to talk about that everyone has been talking about lately is Surging Sparks. The price has still been held back by these reprints of all these booster boxes hitting vending machines. Scalpers are draining machines and taking advantage of the availability, and it's really keeping the price acceleration down. Having 1100 on TCG Player with only 575 selling in the last 3 months. Sell-through rate would be right around 5 months or so for these boxes. That's not great, but they're going to dry up eventually. And this doesn't take into consideration there's probably a large seller in here that is holding boxes at a really high price. This box eventually is going to start to dry up. You won't be able to get out of the vending machine anymore, and everyone's going to start raising their prices. So I do think Surging Sparks is primed for a $300 push up in maybe like 2-3 months. They're still one of the best selling boxes. If we look at the summary, it's third right behind Phantasmal Flames, selling at almost 6 boxes per day on TCG Player. And considering the age of this box, it's older than Phantasmal, Destined, and Mega Evolution, and it's still selling really, really well. I think that's a huge signal for Surging Sparks. This availability is making it more attractive, and eventually it's not going to be available at all, and the price is going to react accordingly. I think this set, as far as the cards go, is honestly really, really good, and probably similar to a set like Mega Evolution or even Phantasmal Flames as far as the quality of the cards themselves. There's just some decent depth and a decent top chase. Nothing too crazy as far as the chase goes, but this is more expensive than any of the regular SIRs in Mega Evolution 1, and yet the booster box is $20 more for Mega Evolution. Maybe only 15, but it's still more expensive, and Mega Evolution's chop chases are 160. With exception to the gold cards, just not my favorite, but their rarity demands a little bit higher of a premium, obviously. So I think all of these cards could be due for a run up as well, as we get closer and closer to this set going out of print 1 year from now. And the other booster box that I would be considering investing in now and taking advantage of before it makes another big jump is Phantasmal Flames. It's already made a massive jump, but I don't think the move is done. The Charizard recently, the SIR, has made another huge leg up, pushing up out of 600 right straight through $700 range and into the $800 area. Now, the availability of this card is very low. In the last 3 months, 535 have sold with 86 cards available. We're selling, sell-through rate would be 2 weeks for this card, which is pretty insane considering when the set released, everyone was talking about hit rates, saying this card is way too common and it's way too easy to pull. You can get it in, one in, out of every case or so. And it just doesn't matter because it's so hard to get product these days. They're not printing enough. And people are going to always, always, always love Charizard to the absolute max. And what I've talked about previously in some of my videos about Phantasmal Flames is on TCG Player, which is where people get their market pricing from. The majority of the time, there is a large seller, Trading Card World, that has 787 boxes, but he's been continually raising his price over time as the boxes sell. I think when I first took a look at this, there was 830-ish boxes listed on TCG Player for $330. And then last week when I took a look at this again, it was up over $350 and it still had right around 800 boxes flat available. Now he's up at 385, and I know he's going to continue to raise it. So as all the boxes underneath him are selling and he starts to see a couple sales at a certain price point, he's increasing his price as his availability is decreasing. And to me, that's a clear signal that everyone is still bullish. The big boys are still bullish on this set. There's not a lot of, gold star sellers under the $400 mark. There really just isn't. And I think throughout the summer, this box is easily going to push up and touch 400. And then we'll see if maybe we get some sort of reprint to any of these Mega Evolution sets, which would give it a bit of retracement and a cool off period. But right now, I think this is going to still be relatively hot and a box that's going to be collectible for a very, very long time because it has one of the best top chases we've seen in a very long time. I would comparatively, obviously the Gengar is incredibly desirable as well from Ascended Heroes. But if we continue to go backwards and look for the next best top chase, I think you have to go back to the Sunbreon in Prismatic to find something comparable. And then before that, you're probably back in Sword and Shield looking at like Lost Origin Giratina. So this is a top echelon card, and in my opinion, because I am a Charizard fan, as are the majority of collectors, this card is even better than a lot of those other ones I've listed. So I think this card will prop up Phantasmal Flames and continue to make it a really, really great buy. With that being said, I also think some auxiliary items for these sets are also good buys. And for me, the most obvious choice is going to be a booster bundle where availability is a little bit higher. And booster bundles for these sets like Black Bolt, White Flare, Destin, and Phantasmal are all around the $60 mark, giving you essentially pack price. Some of them have a slight sealed premium. I think Destin Rivals, because of its availability with recent reprints, is also a pretty solid buy. And the only product I would be looking at currently for this set, because it's low enough where you're protected if it continues to get printed for a long time. You're not going to be in the hole very much at a $60 price point. And the last set I'd like to talk about actually is Mega Evolution itself, but more specifically, I wanted to look at the Elite Trainer boxes. We haven't seen a ton of these available again lately, and this set follows the release of Black and White relatively closely, and you can see that it's lagging behind, but probably for good reason, because this does have a booster box that would be the most premium sealed item to purchase. But these ETBs actually are pretty good, and they have a decent promo inside in the Alakazam and the Riolu, and they're both under $90 market still, which means that on eBay and maybe locally in Facebook, you could probably pick some of these up for $80 still. And I think that's a really, really good buy. These boxes are certainly going to push up to $100 in this calendar year, unless we saw a massive, massive dump of product. And then the PC ETBs are also a decent buy at still being under $200. And I think that's just kind of the new floor. Like, if there's a PC ETB under $200, that's a good buy. If there's a regular ETB under $100 and you think the cards are good, because you probably do want good cards, or you think the box art is good because the sealed collectability of an ETB is much, much higher than something like a booster box because of the art, right? There's going to be a higher sealed premium. There's less packs inside. So then I would want to make sure the cards are good, but I think these cards are criminally undervalued. The gold cards are incredibly rare, even if there's something I don't personally like, but these SIRs are amazing, and they're still going down slowly over time. And it's only a matter of time. 2 years from now, these cards will definitely not be this price. They will be much higher than this. 10, 20%, certainly pushing $200 on some of these. And even like this Mega Latias at $75, that's criminally underrated in my opinion. I think this card is incredible, even if it isn't the most desirable Pokemon. So I think Mega Evolution is actually a decent buy, but because of its relative availability and the potential for reprints, this is a much longer hold than some of the other sets. Could be considered more of a quick flip. With that being said, what kind of larger boxes are you guys targeting in the next few months for buys? Where do you think the price of a booster box like Surging Sparks or Mega Evolution is heading in the short term or in the long term? And let me know if you enjoyed this video in the comments down below. Peace.